Welcome back to another episode of Health is Wealth, and thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. And as always, I am beyond grateful and thankful from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you who is tuning into today's episode and also tuning in to help support the podcast, as every week I'm sharing a new episode, just sharing some words, thoughts of hopes, inspiration, and motivation in order to bring value into your world today. So thank you once again for being here. So what I wanted to discuss with you today is I truly believe that pressure is a privilege. And I've heard this before, and you might think, well, why is that a privilege? Because oftentimes we associate pressure with not feeling good, right? Pressure usually is referred to this feeling of just uncomfortability. We tend to not like pressure in any sense of the word or meaning. And so what I say when I say that pressure is a privilege is that I feel that if we have certain pressures in our lives, what it really is giving us an opportunity to get better, to learn, right? To better ourselves in many different ways, to force ourselves through figuring something out, to overcome it. And I guess this can come in many different ways. A lot of times there might be pressure on us financially. You know, maybe the income's a little tight. You know, your budget's a little tight in the household. Perhaps you feel pressure of needing to make more money, right? And all of those things are good, because without pressure, I don't feel that there's as much as of a urgency, right? To move forward, to figure something out, to proceed. And it's that pressure that causes that feeling of needing to figure things out. It's sort of like, if I use any kind of analogy, let's use like a hot stove, right? If you just put your hand over that stove and the burner isn't on, there really isn't any heat, right? There isn't any, pressure of this heat to our hand from that flame. So there really is no urgency to move it. But what happens when you turn that flame on, right? You start cranking up the heat a little bit, and then it gets higher and higher. Eventually your hand's going to get warmer and hotter and hotter. And then there's going to be this feeling of pressure of, I need to get out of this thing, so I could feel better, to relieve, that pain, that agony. And I think that's the same when it comes to a lot of different pressures in life. I think if we have pressure to, make more money because it's going to help out our livelihood for us, our family, for loved ones, I think that pressure is what allows us to have to figure something out, because without that, what's the urgency really of making something happen? Not really much so. And so again, I really think pressure truly is opportunity, if we look further deep into it, to get better at things. Sometimes there might be pressure of us getting healthier, because we're not at a great weight. We have some health issues. Maybe you had a recent doctor visit. It's like, hey, you're not looking good, these levels from blood work you got, or whatever it is. There might be a pressure to have to get healthier, because if not, you're going to become unhealthier. That could lead to more problems. And so with having that pressure of needing to get healthier for, your better health, then there's just a pressure to apply, to figure things out, to make things better so that you can head into the right direction. And so that's why I think pressure is a privilege, because it's really just that, the opportunity to learn, to get better, to figure it out. And I think when we can look at it in that way, with that lens, then we're able to see the pressures in our life more so as good things than bad things. Because what I've kind of figured out in my own scenario and situation is I've got a lot of pressure in my life. Pressure to hold myself up to this person that I say and want to live up to. This pressure of, building something big. This pressure of earning more income. This pressure of taking care of everybody. This pressure of a lot of different things. And a lot of times people can look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I got so much going on. There's so much stress. There's so much this and there's so much that, right? And it's easy to feel that way because you have a lot of this, pressure taking place from different stressors in life and so forth. But as I've started to see it now, I welcome it because I realize that through some of the pressures that I am dealing with, I have the privilege to be able to have those pressures because those things are ultimately going to level me up into the next version of myself. And the bigger the pressure I have in my life, that means I am getting to a new and different level and elevating in life, right? And so, you can either look at pressure as a good or bad thing. I think it's a good thing, and I think when we start to see it, I don't see it as, bad things happening to me, more so as these opportunities happening to me so I can learn to get better at something, skill set wise, mindset wise, belief wise, ability wise, whatever it may be. Because the more pressure I have, the more I feel that I have no choice but to make this happen, but to figure this out, but to do that. And with that being that way, it's what continues to move me forward. It's what continues to make sure that I don't quit or give up because it gets too hard or I can't figure it out or whatever it may be. It's like all that pressure also creates urgency to figure things out as quickly as possible in certain areas and so forth. And so pressure is a privilege, when you start to see it that way, you will start to see these things that you get to have these problems. A lot of times, we feel, oh my God, I got all these pressures. I've got to pay this and I've got to do that and I've got to make more here and all of that. But when you realize the things that you might have pressure with are things that people don't have in their life, and they are, again, things that you can use to your advantage to better yourself, to better your circumstance, to better your livelihood, to better your future. And so instead of looking at that pressure as bad things, be grateful for them, Be grateful for the opportunity that you will get in those moments because those are things that are going to help you learn and skill up and level up and better yourself and progress forward and elevate to the next step and stage and level in life. And so, when you start to see it that way, you start to look at things different. And again, for me, I'm grateful that I have the pressures that I have in life because they force me to turn myself into somebody that I haven't been able to unlock yet through those pressures as I figure things out, as I learn to take on more stresses and learn to handle more responsibilities and all of that. It's ultimately forging me with all that pressure into the strongest, best version of myself possible. Because every time I have some pressure and I get to the next thing and I figure it out, and then there's more pressure and I get to the next thing and I figure it out, it only makes me a better person of my capabilities and abilities to manage it on many different levels, physically handling it, mentally handling it, and so forth. So just remember that pressure is a privilege. And when you start to see them as that, you will start to see them as opportunities that you can use to your advantage to better yourself. And the bigger the pressure, the more pressure you have, that means you're on a level that somebody else hasn't been to, may never get to, and you should see it as something that you should be grateful for. And once again, use it to your advantage to help you get to the next step, to learn something you haven't learned, to help you become that next version of yourself that you haven't become. So pressure is a privilege. Thank you once again for being here. And as always, I will see you on the next one.